Hi, everybody, and welcome to LinkedIn Learning Office Hours. My name's Robbie Kelman Baxter, and I'm your host. I'm really excited to share with you some great new rules for marketing leaders. Um, and before we get started, I would love it if you shared where you're from and any questions that you have, anything that's on your mind, so that my guest, Lisa Norell, and I can make this as personal and relevant as possible. This is the first episode of a series that we're doing, which is going to highlight some of my favorite LinkedIn learning instructors. Um, so this is the first of many. And with that, I want to introduce my guest today, Lisa Norell. Hi, Lisa.
Hey there, how you doing, Robbie?
Good, thanks. It's great to see you. I want to share a little bit about Lisa. She's the founder of Energize Growth. She helps marketers and CEOs accelerate marketing innovation and growth. She's worked with people from the AARP, Adobe, Google, and LinkedIn to help formulate new strategies and launch breakthrough marketing ideas. Something that I find really interesting about Lisa is she has done over 70 live streams herself. So she is a real pro. In addition to her keynotes and her workshops, she's founded Marketing Leaders USA, which is a private peer group dedicated to helping CMOs thrive. And she's had thousands of people participate in her LinkedIn courses, which is one of the many ways that Lisa and I have gotten to know each other. She has an awesome newsletter, which I encourage you to check out, called The Mindful Marketer, which you can get, I think, Lisa, at mindfulmarketer.com.
It's themindfulmarketer.com.
The Mindful Marketer.
It's there in the little banner, so people can just click there and receive it.
Perfect. And so today I invited Lisa to kick off this office hours series to share her ideas beyond what she teaches in her popular LinkedIn course, which is called Become an Effective CMO. And to talk about the new rules for marketing leaders, what's changed, what's important, and most importantly, how we can all thrive in this world of marketing, which is changing so quickly. So, Lisa, I want to jump in. Today's session is about new rules for marketing leaders. And I want to ask you, what have you seen that's changed that necessitates new rules?
Oh, well, first of all, Robbie, thanks for having me. I love that we're both here as pioneers for your new LinkedIn Office Hours series. I feel very honored that you said, come and jump in the pool. So it's really great. So there are so many things swirling around us. If we want to stick with the water metaphor for a minute, we are seeing the tsunami of economic growth and decline and stock markets, and most importantly, all of my CMOs, whether they're really successful CMOs working for double-digit growth companies, or whether they're working for an industry that's somewhat mature or in decline, such as traditional mortgage banking or mortgage processing, what we're seeing is that CMOs are being asked to cut costs, even if the company's doing well. And so many of my CMO clients are under the age of 38. And for many of them, it's their first time they're looking at the recession, down the barrel of the gun of recession. So they don't really know, how do I respond to this? And is this a warning sign, or how do I deal with this? So that's the first thing that I'm noticing is, okay, how do we cut costs or deliver back to the CFO a certain number of millions of dollars in savings without damaging our brand or the life cycle relationship we want with our customers?
Yeah, I've seen that too, especially in the last few months. There's been a lot of pressure on marketers, some of whom have been coming off depending on what industry you're in, coming off a time of great growth. And I think whenever there's an economic downturn, marketing is often the first thing to be cut, or one of the first things to be cut. Another thing that I notice is sort of the changing world of technology and in the number of channels that a marketer is expected to leverage and integrate in a way that works best for the customer. Are you seeing that as well?
Well, digital transformation has been on the minds of my CMO clients now for years. I started building the Marketing Growth Leaders private CMO community 11 years ago. And I think you alluded to that earlier. And for none of them are saying, wow, digital transformation is foreign to me. But what they are noticing is that the time that it takes to deal with the human aspects of the transformation is longer. And I think part of the reason is that the demands on marketing leaders right now could never have been predicted before COVID. Like, they have to be experts in mental wellness. They have to be experts in employee experience. And these are skills and capabilities that we never had to really talk much about until now. Have you ever noticed your LinkedIn feed, how much people are talking about mental wellness and taking time off from work to refresh, or suffering from knowing someone in their friendship circles or their family who have died from suicide or opioid addiction, which is killing 57,000 or more people in the United States every year. So did any CMO ever sign up for that?
Yeah. Just simply, one, managing people is so much more complicated now, and different generations, all of these issues, people bringing their whole self to work, and us wanting to embrace that and acknowledge that creates, there's so many skills that you don't learn in business school, or when you take a communications class or an analytics class. I think just leading the team is much more challenging. And then I think on the other side, the actual world of how you market is changing so fast, and you have this downward pressure. And I think there's, it's kind of like this perfect storm of expectation, which is very, very challenging. Something that you said that I wanted to pick up on, and actually we're going to be talking about it in office hours in 2 weeks, is this question of project management. So, an organization says we're having a digital transformation, we're going to move, we're going to do things in a different way. A lot of times the organization focuses only on the tactical part, the specific parts of that transition, and don't think about managing the change itself. What does that do to the people? When you're told, instead of, using an Excel spreadsheet the way you always have, or doing it, quote, your own way, suddenly we're going to have metrics, we're going to have systems, we're going to have this, this unified, database that we're all going to be using, and we're going to be customer centric, and we're going to, have these new metrics. I think it can be really overwhelming for marketers. What are, yeah.
I think it's gone from, and I'm going to upset some people today, I'm sure, but I think we've gone from content is king to content is the court jester. And what I mean by that is that we are swimming in volumes of content. And for years, I even encouraged my clients to build, volumes of great content for their customers or their intended audiences and communities. And now what I realize and learned through the pandemic is we need less content of high quality and more white space to make those strategic decisions. And until we can do that as marketing leaders, we are part of the problem of overwhelm.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I have 2 questions for you. I want to talk about what it means for content to be the court jester, because that is just, I love that. And then I also want to talk about, how do you provide less? I mean, how do you, I have a client right now. They have big company. They have tons of data. They can answer any question. But when you ask the question, what they do is they say, here's the entire, database. Here's everything we have. We have a 27-page report on that. And that's not helpful. right? It's not helpful to me as a consultant. It's certainly not helpful to their colleagues who aren't, used to analyzing, big amounts of data. How do you teach people to take all of this information that we have, all of these ideas that we have, all of this content, and make it useful? So first question, court jester, and then we'll go into the how do you make content
Well,
useful? From the ridiculous to the sublime.
yes, exactly. It harkens back to a similar situation I just recently had with a CMO, and they are launching a product to the Department of Defense customers that they serve. And the CMO came to me and said, how come I can't get the head of product development to listen to me? Here is my project plan. Here, I've got it all on a spreadsheet. This is what I need from them. I've done my product marketing plan. What is wrong? Why can't they listen to me? And I looked at them and I said, what do you think is the product lead's personal win with a successful launch of the product? And I kind of got the blank stare. And I said, well, let me promise you, it's not delivering a great product with a spreadsheet to back it up. There's something about that person you just don't understand yet. And I said, what could you do about that? What do you think is missing? And they finally realized, I have no idea what motivates this person. So I never really position anything other than we need to follow the spreadsheet and the project plan because, here are the dates. So after some coaching this person, they realized, oh, I need to take this person out to lunch and find out why do you love your job? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Tell me something you do to relax in your personal time. They had absolutely no clue what made this person tick. And I think, instead of loading them up, as I said, the king of content, being the court gesture and allowing people to take their defenses down and just be people in these simple conversations can create breakthrough moments in your marketing leadership career.
Yeah,
Yes.
Humor and vulnerability, two more things that you don't really learn in business school.
Yes. And I was sitting with my partner, Michael, the other night, and I said, I'm looking back, I've been going to school for, 58 years. And two of my favorite recent courses, the first one was stakeholder-centered coaching, of course, with Marshall Goldsmith in the 100 Coaches community. The second favorite course was a 2-month-long comedy improv class. Because it taught me to just live in the moment and stop taking myself so damn seriously. I mean, I am not a brain surgeon and I don't play one on TV. So let's, lightening up a little bit and just playing and being playful with our clients, being able to tell a funny story, tell a customer story is, it just is such a great icebreaker, just like you and I have done. By the way, did you notice we've got some cool questions coming in, Robbie, from, I love this. Rishi is a customer experience leader asking, how do you consume content?
Yeah. I was just about to go to that. I wanted to touch on the data overload. And maybe this is a good question to kind of layer in. The question about consuming content, what I would love to ask you, Lisa, is how do you consume content? And what does that mean when you're interacting with fellow leaders, right? The example you gave of, the person saying, here's my product plan, here's all my data, here's what I need done. Why aren't you doing it? Instead of saying, here's, first of all, it's understanding where that person's coming from. And then it's, I think the next step is presenting the right tiny bit of content that connects the dots between where I am, which is, can you please just finish the project and do what I told you to do, and where they are, which is, this is what gets me out of bed in the morning. This is my number one priority. This is what my bonus is tied to, which is different than yours. And so how do you do that? How do you create that kind of content, and how do you consume content yourself? How do you manage your own intake?
Yes, I'll start with my personal story, and then if I could be helpful, I'll offer a few tips to all of our audience joining us from around the globe today. The first thing is I only consume content in the mornings after I have had my coffee, done my journaling, and meditated. And I stay off of the devices, and, I don't listen to any news programs or anything. I also have completely terminated all of my cable television subscriptions. I don't need them. I don't need people screaming at me. I love to read. So personally, I love reading, and I love newsletters from really cool people. I also love consuming podcasts. And by the way, my Mindful Marketer podcast just got awarded one of the top 10 shows for CMOs. So I was like, yay. So the reason I love podcasts is I have a lot of energy. So when I'm walking or hiking or cleaning the kitchen, I can listen to a podcast. So those are some of the ways that I love to consume content. And what I love is then when I work with clients, and I hope some of these tips are useful for everyone watching who has to deal with a stakeholder like your customer or your vice president of sales or your head of finance, is to ask them, how do you want us to report our progress? Some might say, let's hop on a Zoom call once a week for 15 minutes or Microsoft Teams meeting. Others might say, just the facts, ma'am. Show me a dashboard with your top 5 metrics, and I'll call you if I have any questions. Other people want that human touch. And since I coach a number of CMOs and CEOs who are based in the Washington, D.C. metro area, a number of my clients are based in this area, I make it a point to see them in person a certain number of times a year, because again, they respond to that so positively, and we're all coming out of our COVID cocoons. So I want to say thank you to the gentleman who was asking about content. And, Rishi, it's always important to ask your stakeholder, how would you like the information delivered?
Yeah, I think that's so important. A couple of things to take away from that. One of them is when you're the person with the information making the ask, right? Because that's what we're doing a lot of times. We're asking someone to help us achieve our goals, which hopefully are the organization's goals, but might be a little different than how they're thinking about the most important things. How do you convince them? I think step one is put yourself in their shoes. And a good way to put yourself in their shoes is to ask them, what are you trying to accomplish? And what's the best way I can help you accomplish that? And how can I keep you informed on what we're doing? And I think as you rise up in the organization, how you do that changes. And how you do that with your team members is very different than how you do it with your peers or, the LinkedIn course that I created for CMOs, which is about, how do you manage and communicate with your board and your leadership team. One of the big challenges is it's a different way of using data. It's a different set of goals. And the people on the team have different ways of consuming their morning data with their morning coffee. And one of the follow-up questions I have for you, Lisa, you talked about how you like to get information. What do you do on the job when you're working with a client and they're giving you data that is not the best way for you, and they have not been taught or educated or understand what you need to help them do their job better? How do you recommend communicating your needs when the other person isn't so self-evolved that they think to ask?
Yes, what a great question that is. I've actually had a couple of instances when I was coaching a CEO and a CMO, and I said, look, I know the last couple of meetings you've just shown up and you were not prepared. And I'll say to them, I am here for one reason, to help you thrive, to help you build a stronger company and a better life. I also, as part of that, I have to prepare you for board meetings. And if you did this at a board meeting, things would not go well, would they? And they say, yeah. And, I get a little eye roll here and there. We need to be prepared for those pivotal moments when we are in the hot seat. So I say, treat every meeting as if it were a board meeting. And there's a whole body of work around this that I want to give a shout out to Professor Stephen Rogelberg at the University of North Carolina. He wrote a terrific book on managing your meetings, how to get people ready for the meetings, how to set up the meeting, how to finish the meeting. It is a fabulous book. So if you're interested, send me an email to lisa@lisanorell.com, and I'll be sure to send you the link to his book. He came and spent a day with us at the Marketing Growth Leaders meeting. And the best news of all that I got back from the community was, thank you, Lisa. I have cut many of my meetings size in half. I've gotten some life back in my calendar.
Yeah, I love that. And I wonder if there's anybody in the chat who's on a board themselves, because one of the things that I've noticed at many stages in my life is that when I have, I'll be on one side of the table, and then when I'm on the other side of the table, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's what they meant when I was getting that feedback, or that's what I should have done. Because it's like the minute you're on the board and somebody comes in and presents, here's our acquisition plan, or here's all the data that we have, there's 27 pages, you start to realize like, wow, we're talking about a lot of other topics, big topics. And what I really want to know is what are the highlights and how does it fit or not fit with our broader strategy in one page or less. So I wonder, I think that experience and the role playing of saying, every meeting is like a board meeting, that's really helpful. I also think imagining you're on the board and having that experience and saying, what do you need to hear? You're on the board. What is going to be important? What are the questions you're asking yourself? What was your morning like? What content did you consume? What are your goals for your board meeting? And when you put yourself in the other person's shoes, I think it really opens your eyes to what that other person actually needs. And I know you've written a couple of books. I've written a couple of books. When I was writing my books, I actually had pictures of my audience on my screen. I cut them out and I put them all around the screen. So I would say, would Lisa find this interesting? No, Lisa probably wouldn't. Sujit would be turning the page right now. This is not what Sujit needs. And so, having that kind of mindset of really thinking who, not just, what would a board want, but also who's on that board and what are they trying to get done and how can I help them, especially if I don't have the opportunity, as you said, to take them out to lunch and ask them what they like to do in their free time and, all those questions, because we don't always get those opportunities with board members. But I love the idea of really thinking about how they are talking about what you do at the next level up, wherever that is. If you're a director, what are the VPs talking about? What is your boss talking about with their peers? It just helps you to up-level your own thinking. And I think we all have a tendency to get into the weeds and drink our own Kool-Aid and say, our ideas are the most important in the company.
Right.
Which maybe they are. Maybe they are.
Well, I take my inspiration from the Oscar-winning actor Michael Kane, who once said, the rehearsal is the work. The performance is the relaxation. So how many of you preparing for that board meeting or maybe considering joining a board? I've only been on 3 boards, but I'm hoping in my later years I'll join some more. How many of you think of it that way and have some allies who are board members where you can call them and say, may I grab 15 minutes? And to me, 15-minute meetings are golden. May I grab 15 minutes and test this out with you? I've got a couple of ideas. I want to see how they land and how well I am conveying my message. Could you be my sounding board?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Here's another thing, not as pithy as Michael Kane, but I think that the actual presentation is the the how do you say it? It's the recap of what we've already agreed to. It shouldn't be new news for anyone in the room, right? And I think, one of the challenges, I think, as you rise and then, become a leader, and I think this is true across many functional areas, is the skills need to change a lot, right? Nobody is doubting that you understand marketing, that you know how to do more with less, that you have a good finger on the pulse of what's happening in the world of marketing. But the question is, how can you make that relevant? And to circle back to your original, comment where you were talking about how there's a lot of conversations going on right now between CFOs and CMOs about budgets. One option is to take the number you get and do more with less, and the other is to make a case for how marketing is going to get the numbers that the organization needs, how you as a marketer are not just wearing your marketing hat, but you're really wearing your exec team hat, and saying, here's what I can do, with the skills and the resources that my team has to help us achieve in this really challenging time.
Yes. And don't believe us. Go check out and do a Google search on a recent research report from Salesforce that teamed up with Stanford and Columbia universities. And it was called the Experience Equation Study. And they went out and interviewed 4,000 people about this and said, what's changing out there in terms of customers and the market? And they found that marketing leaders and sales leaders who really start to take customer experience and employee experience as strategic drivers and critical investment areas can report as much as 50% higher revenues than their peers. Now, I'm not disagreeing or agreeing with them, and I know it's a bit self-serving for a software company to come out with such a hypothesis. I get that. However, I think the report, which is free, is definitely worth reading, because 4,000 senior executives can't be completely wrong.
Yeah. That's a great resource, and we'll make sure we get it. Or you can go to Lisa at lisanorel.com to have her send it to you. Something I've also noticed is that the increased focus on customer lifetime value, both with subscription businesses where I spend most of my time and more transactional ones, has made marketing after the initial transaction just as important, if not more important, than the messaging, communications, and activities leading up to that first transaction.
And say more. I want to hear what you're seeing now that subscription economy is a way of life with us now. When you started writing your first book, it was really a more of a nascent business model, but now everybody's on board.
It was, Lisa, we've been friends a long time, and you remember when I was just starting to write this book, and I was told by several publishers that the audience wasn't big enough, that people didn't care about subscriptions, and that retention doesn't matter, and it's all about acquisition, and it's all about growth. And, what I see, we're talking about what's changed for marketers. One of the things that's changed is, people are realizing how important it is not just to win that customer, but to retain them. And the way you retain them is by engaging them, right? All the pieces fit together. And I wonder if I'm seeing that certainly subscription is all about that, right? You acquire the people that you think are most likely to stay. You immediately invest in onboarding them so that they build habits, so that they continue to use your products and services, so that they don't cancel, and ideally so that they tell their friends or expand their relationship with you. All of that makes sense. I think the same things are true. Apple hardware is a really good example of that. I know that Apple software, now they're kind of subscription leaders. They've done a lot of innovative things with iTunes and with their App Store in terms of subscription. But even back in the old days before that, when they were, primarily a hardware organization, people would say, I'm an Apple member. I'm an Apple person. I'm a member of Apple. Right. And what that meant
was a badge of prestige, right?
Well, it was a badge of prestige, and it was also a signal of habit. So I would say, I need a computer. I'm going to go to the Apple store. I'm going to say, what computer should I buy? I'm an Apple person. Which computer is good for an Apple person? They'd say, buy this one. Then I'd say, hey, I'm an Apple person. What phone should I buy? Right? And they'd say, oh, ask a couple questions. You should buy this phone. It's just going to work, right? That's their forever promise. It all works together, and we take care of people who are Apple people. There's no subscription there, right? But then here's the interesting thing. I come in and I say, hey, I'm an Apple person. I need a printer. And Apple says, we don't sell printers. And I say, okay, tell me where I should go and what I should buy because I'm an Apple person, right? And that level of trust and that level of starting there first doesn't even require a subscription, but it requires a mindset from the marketing organization that when that person comes in that first time and buys whatever, that you're thinking about that the long term. You're thinking about what is the ultimate ongoing problem that I'm solving for them. And I'm wondering if you're seeing that with your customers, both the ones that have the transactional businesses and the ones that are more formally involved in subs.
Yes, well, with it, thank you for asking about that. The marketing growth leaders community are primarily chief growth officers and chief marketing officers. And then I also am coaching a number of CEOs and CMOs. And so I'm really fortunate that I get to work with a number of different industries. So I am very industry agnostic. So I know that you are very much focused on the subscription businesses. So what I'm seeing is this natural tendency right now to do a lot of internal navel gazing, and it's preventing us from focusing on the outside stakeholders. Notice I didn't say shareholders, I said stakeholders.
Yeah.
It's so easy to be, rearranging the deck chairs on our Titanic concerns about the economy and to skip that customer meeting. Oh, I'll just read the report from the sales rep. Oh, there'll be another live event sometime next year. Who cares? I don't want to travel. I like Zoom. This is scary. This is very scary to me, that this navel gazing is a very dangerous place right now. So I'm seeing way too many internal meetings focusing on bolstering the balance sheet and making the numbers look good for earnings. So we've got to be very careful as market leaders. And everyone I see here, like Alan from Atlanta and Anusha is here, you are market leaders. You think like market leaders. Please retain your focus on your customers. Okay.
Yeah.
And Robbie is an excellent resource for you to think of ways. The other thing is, I'm going to steal a couple ideas from clients, if you don't mind, and pass them along. One of my favorite clients runs a marketing for a global $500 million technology company. And she really opened my eyes. She said, look, come together with your sales teams, come together with your customer success teams, and look at your win back strategies. How can you either win back customers that you have ignored, that went to your competition, or build more value with the customers you have? Again, it's very easy to just say, well, let's focus on net new customers. Let's focus on demand gen pipeline and how much pipeline can this marketing team generate for me? So she's saying, oh my gosh, we are kicking ass right now because our competitors are not thinking about win back strategies. And we're going in and we've got some new products. We're adding more value and we're a known quantity, a known entity, and we're winning business. So I would look at that. And then the other is look at what happens when a customer is ready to leave. How are you helping them either leave with dignity or offer some creative ways to keep them around without being overly annoying? Like I called the Wall Street Journal once because I needed to cancel my subscription for a time when I was moving to my new home out here in Virginia. Oh my goodness, those poor people had to read this long script about all the reasons that I should not leave the Wall Street Journal. And I said, no, don't do this to me. I know you're getting paid to do this, but please do not read the script. Yeah. I just want to cancel for now. So come up with some better strategies to either save some of the ones that are leaving or let them leave with dignity. And one last thing on that too is How can you use chatbots in an intelligent, non-manipulative way? I've got a lot of B2B clients that are now using chatbots on different pages of their websites based on the interest of the person on the website. Oh, I noticed you're interested in, remodeling your home. Here's a short webinar we are going to be doing next month on the top 10 remodeling mistakes. You might want to come to our webinar. So that's just an example. Those are some examples my best clients are using, and I hope some of those are helpful.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful examples, Lisa. And I think, that can be summed up by saying, this is a great time to look at the full customer life cycle and to say, okay, what can we do for the customers we've lost? Why did we lose them and how do we win them back? What can we do from the ones that are about to leave? How can we let them go with dignity, or encourage them, help them understand ways that they might be able to stay, either with a lighter experience or by fixing a problem that they have. Ideally, you want to do that before the moment of cancellation, right? You want to notice a change in engagement and reach out and say, hey, it seems like you're not using our products as well. Is there something going on? Which really calls for collaboration across the organization, which I think is one of the themes that we've had today, which is, marketing is about, certainly it's about the technical skills that are required to run the different functional areas of marketing. But as you are in leadership, and especially right now, it's about thinking holistically about your customer and thinking holistically about your stakeholders. And there has been a move from the Business Growth Forum has gone away from Business Growth Roundtable has gone away from the shareholder language and is now talking about stakeholders, meaning, you want to do what's right for your investors, but also for your customers, your employees, and also the people who live in your community. So I think, Lisa, your recommendations are really a beautiful way of summarizing that. And with that, I want to thank you so much for joining us for LinkedIn Learning Office Hours. We're going to be back in 2 weeks on October 27th with Bonnie Biafore talking about project management and innovation. So I hope you all will join us then. And I hope that you take a moment and learn more about Lisa at themindfulmarketer.com.
Robbie, I had a great time. And also people can go watch my live streams at our archives at lisanorell.com/events. So the shows are continuing on LinkedIn Live and on all of your favorite podcast platforms. So I look forward to our next collaboration.
Me too. Bye, everyone. Thanks again for joining us.